Hello, my name is Vince Sheehan, and today I'd love to talk about Ein Heldenleben by Richard Strauss. I'd love to go through this work exploring what the themes of this piece mean, what they represent, as well as the structure of this work. I'm one of these people who has to know where I am in a piece of music, otherwise my attention wanders. And that's why I do these videos. So if you're getting to know this piece at home, or you're going to see it performed in a concert hall, this video might be helpful for you, and if it is, please click like and subscribe. Now, Strauss wrote this in 1898, and it's kind of seen as a crowning achievement at the end of a succession of these tone poems he'd written for orchestra. Maybe from Don Juan, which is seen as a watershed moment in 1888. And now we're in 1898 and he writes his grandest tone poem to date. He did write a couple more after this. And it's got a huge orchestra. And Strauss is making a real statement with this work. Ein Heldenleben, a hero's life. Who is the hero, you might ask? Well, Strauss maintained it wasn't him. He said he wasn't built to be a hero. He wasn't built for battle. However, you can't help but think that really it is about Strauss, particularly when he references his own works in this piece many times as quotations from previous tone poems and things. And also, the third movement is all about his wife, Paulina de Arna. So there is certainly an autobiographical element to this work. He wrote a title for each of the six movements, which he later removed, but there are things like Der Held, the hero, the hero's adversaries, which many people think are about the critics who were openly hostile about Strauss's new progressive music, the hero's wife, the hero's companion with this exquisite violin solo in it. The hero does battle with his critics in the fourth movement. And then the hero's works of peace, and kind of at the end, the hero's retirement. So it's definitely a lot of Strauss in the extra musical content of this work. But, you know, perhaps wrapped up in there as well, there's the Nietzschean idea of the hero. Strauss, like many others of his generation, was enthralled to the philosophy of Friedrich Nietzsche and the kind of hero forging forth on their own merits, embracing change and suffering to succeed over the vicissitudes of life as some kind of Übermensch. So let's dive in with the first movement, Der Held, the hero. And we begin with this fantastically heroic melody, of course, in E flat major, the key of the Eroica Symphony. That was certainly chosen deliberately by Strauss. And we have this great idea which unifies the whole work. It's like the motto theme. And it goes like this. You start at the very lowest E flat. Carries on like that. So in this first movement, this hero motto melody comes back in a major way 5 times. And you can follow the form with the bar numbers in the description of this video. But as well as that incredibly exciting heroic melody, there's some subsidiary motifs around that. In the secondary statement of the melody, we modulate to B major. That kind of thing, and more romantic, more lyrical. And you get this as well. So it's all kind of this big melting pot in this first movement. The orchestration's so dense, it's so opaque, there's so many different things going on. But every mini section in this first movement is heralded by the main hero idea. Also, there's another rhythmic idea which is very important as well. Bum ba ba bum, bum ba ba bum. This comes back many times through the whole work. So these three ideas, the main hero idea, the more lyrical kind of romantic string writing, and this dum da da dum, they all form this kind of this heroic character in this work, and they come back time and time again throughout all the movements in various guises. So the hero is announced onto the scene in this brief first movement. But then no sooner as he's made his entrance, the bad guys turn up, the hero's adversaries. And who are they? Well, they're the critics. And they have these kind of really wacky chromatic ideas high up in the woodwinds. Amongst all that high woodwind chattering, you hear in the tubas, the tenor and the bass tuba, this idea which cuts across the beat in parallel fifths, which of course in music theory is a big no-no. And that goes like this. Apparently that represents a critic who was particularly hostile to Strauss's work. So all these critics are beleaguering our hero, getting him down, making him miserable. And in the central section of this movement we hear a rather forlorn and wounded version of the hero theme, which goes like this. So our hero is in the doldrums, he's thoroughly fed up. And in the final section of this movement, the hero's adversaries, the chattering critics come back, combined with the doleful tones of our hero. But then, the hero seems to be triumphant. Someone who's arrived has given him a sense of hope and optimism. If Strauss was a little coy about whether or not he was the hero of Ein Heldenleben, the composer himself, he had no hesitation in identifying the companion of the third movement, which is entitled Des Helden Gefährtin, the hero's companion. He had no hesitation in saying that this is a description of his wife. And it's basically a violin concerto. And the violin represents his wife, Paulina de Arna, and Strauss himself said that his wife is very complex, a trifle perverse, a trifle coquettish, never the same, changing from minute to minute. And this extraordinarily difficult and expressive solo violin part really brings all the nuances of her character to life in this extraordinary movement in this work. In the grand scheme of things, this movement really is the hero's loving wife pulling him up from the doldrums, from the aftermath of the attack from his adversaries, his critics. And we have, after the fanfare, which heralds her entrance at the end of the previous movement, we have this introduction where the solo violin starts. Dum da da dum, da 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 dum da da dum. So we have this introduction, and eventually the music kind of settles down, and we have the hero, who is feeling utterly dejected and depressed. He's right rock bottom, and you hear kind of this morose rumbling in the lower orchestra, these fragments of melodies really, like this. And up above in these cadenza passages, his wife is trying to encourage him, pull him up by the bootstraps. Sometimes she appears to be almost scolding him. Come on, get up. Stop feeling sorry for yourself, that kind of thing. It really is a remarkable piece of tone poetry. So he keeps swapping between the hero and his wife in this A section. This takes up a fair amount of this movement, and so the violin writing is extraordinary. Far more difficult than anything I could attempt to play. We get lots of these kind of figurations. That kind of thing. And eventually we come to a new section, which is like a kind of love duet between the hero and his wife. It's very touching. And we hear this melody, which has been hinted at before. Gorgeous romantic wash of sound, isn't it? And a very Der Rosenkavalier about this. And then we come to an additional melody, which is one of my favourite parts in the score. I call this section C. And remember, you can follow the structure in the description below the bar numbers. We hear it on the oboe first. Still G flat major. Love that. And of course, Strauss being Strauss, these kind of beautiful resolutions onto new harmonies. This is a gorgeous love duet, but the critics aren't completely vanquished. We hear a reminder in this brief transitional section of the critics' music before eventually the hero's had enough. It's time to do battle. And he's got his wife to help him. So next up we have Des Heldenwallstatt, the hero at battle. And this is a famous passage of orchestral music where Strauss just uses the orchestra in an overwhelmingly powerful and awesome way. He literally uses everything, including the kitchen sink in the orchestra, for this movement. Our hero is battling against his critics here, and he has the support of his wife by his side. And we begin with some fanfares, offstage trumpets, a thrilling way to begin this movement. In terms of the schema of this whole symphonic poem in its 6 movements, the battle really is the development section. Now, you can't really describe Ein Heldenleben as in a purely sonata form structure, but this is definitely the main developmental section of this work. And It's in two parts. And after these fanfares, we are just reminded of many of the themes we've heard already, the ideas associated with the hero. But when we come to the second section, we come to this kind of grim march, except it's not a march, it's actually in three, it's in three time. But it always reminds me of The Empire Strikes Back from the Star Wars trilogy, you know, that kind of Imperial March music. Have a listen to this. That trumpet tune clearly represents the most vociferous and battle-hardened of the hero's critics. And again, listen out not only for the hero motifs in this maelstrom, but also his wife, his companion's ideas. An important idea actually in this movement is, if you remember the original hero melody, that motif there, going down almost the whole tone scale there, that idea, those few notes, come back with great force in this battle, particularly in the brass. Have a listen to this. Did you hear that? Da, 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 da. From the original hero motto theme. And after this period of almost cacophony, it really is a thrilling ride, this movement. We come to that triumphant fanfare again, the one we heard at the end of the critics movement, movement number 2. It seems the hero really has come out on top in this battle. Have a listen to this. And this fanfare leads us into the 5th movement, Des Helden Friedenswerke, the hero's works of peace. And what's remarkable about this movement is we have something of a recapitulation. We have an almighty return to the home key, E flat major, and it's a thrilling moment in this whole work, coming back after his battle straight to the hero theme, striding forward. He's vanquished his enemies, at least for now. And Strauss doesn't actually entitle this movement with this recapitulation. He actually starts the movement a few bars later. But I think Strauss was wrong. This is where the movement should have started. So have a listen to this. I think it's absolutely brilliant. kind of music which makes you feel glad to be alive, isn't it? And of course Strauss this time has those strutting quavers, boom 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 boom. Yeah, fantastic stuff. But this isn't an ordinary recapitulation, because not only does Strauss present his main motto theme of this work again, the hero theme, he recapitulates, brings back many of his greatest hits from previous works. So in this section there's many quotes, including Also sprach Zarathustra and Till Eulenspiegel and Totenverklärung and more besides. And you know, I don't think it's important to catch all those references because many of them are just buried in the texture of the score. But I think the key one is, which is unmistakable, that famous theme from Don Juan, which was the piece that really propelled Strauss, wasn't it, as a great writer of tone poems. All of a sudden you hear this. If you know Don Juan, you'll recognise that. Eventually though, guess who comes back? The critics. Sniping again. And we have this new idea as well. So we have the kind of the most ponderous critic of them all. Remember his theme. And then we have a howl of frustration from the hero. He thought he'd got rid of these guys. And this transition with the critics brings us into the next section in the hero's works of peace. We come to a gentler section. And the main hero motto is turned into a rocking accompaniment. And we have this rather beautiful melody, again based on the main hero motto. You hear that heroic rhythm there, dum da da dum, which we hear in those fanfares. We have a section after that where there's more quotes before we come to an ending of this section, which almost sounds like the Tristan chord, although I don't think it is, but it kind of has that effect. And now we are into the final movement. Des Helden Weltflucht und Vollendung. The hero's retirement from this world and completion. And again, like many of the movements, it's quite episodic in nature, but we begin with the critics again, and there's this kind of real storm going on as well from the hero. A yelp of pain. There's an excellent video by Benjamin Zander, the conductor, and he describes this as not a physical battle with the critics, but a kind of mental battle where the hero can't let go of them. And he's kind of creating a hell for himself here, kind of mentally, in his own mind. You know what it's like when you kind of stress yourself out because you can't let something go. So have a quick listen to this. storm subsides and we come to another gentle passage, a bit like the rocking harp passage in the previous movement. We have this pastoral where the English horn has this new melody, very beautiful. We have another brief stormy section, but the work ends in peace and acceptance as the hero and his companion go off and enjoy a life of peace and completion. And the work ends in a very beautiful way. So that's Strauss Ein Heldenleben. Thank you for watching, and thank you to Bobby Davro for suggesting that I cover this work. If there's any works you want me to look at in the future, please put them in the comments below. Please click like and subscribe. Donate to my channel if you can afford to, and if this has been helpful to you. And all the best. See you soon. Bye.